Public Works Deputy Minister Sihle Zikalala says the Land Expropriation Bill aims to correct the injustices of the past. The controversial legislation signed by President Cyril Ramaphosa will allow organs of state to expropriate land in the public interest. It replaces the outdated Expropriation Act of 1975. The development has been met with mixed reaction.
Well, there's been a number of cases where the state have tried to expropriate, but people have taken the state to court and compelled the state to pay for expropriation, hence a need for this act. And now we are sure and guaranteed that this is an act that has been promulgated and signed by the president. It will then help us. Yes, it is not a change of the constitution as expected before, but it gives mandate to the state to expropriate in the public interest. And therefore, it will be better than that act of 1975.
Now, the DA spokesperson and Member of Parliament, Karabo Kakao, says the parliamentary process on Land Expropriation Act was flawed. The party says it's consulting its lawyers to challenge it. The Freedom Front Plus and Action SA are also threatening legal action.
The Northwest as a province did not even vote at all because they didn't have a mandate at all. The only province that voted against was the Western Cape. And then we only have 4 provinces actually who voted in favor. Those would be KZN, the Northern Cape, the Free State, and Mpumalanga. See, those provinces alone, number one, do not make majority. And even if you count in Limpopo, the Eastern Cape, and Gauteng, who would make a majority if you count them together and tally them together. The problem is that the process that Limpopo, the Eastern Cape, followed was flawed as far as what the negotiating mandate rules dictate for members of parliament to do. And these are simple things that as the Democratic Alliance have always for years been saying shouldn't be the case.
Now, joining us is Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform, Mr. Mzwanele Nyhontso. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening in studio. I want us to have reaction first to what you just heard, that clip by the DA. Of course, there's been mixed reaction to this announcement as well and the signing of this act by the president. But the claim that the parliamentary process was flawed, what process did you undertake before the president signed this as an act?
Greetings to you and greetings to the viewers. I don't want to talk about the constitutionality or non-constitutionality of the process, as the clip has just said. But all I know is that the bill was signed yesterday. And after it was signed by the president, it is the law of the land. And therefore, it must be implemented by government. So I don't know about constitutionality or what happened with the NCOP. I'm not sitting in the NCOP, but I know the bill passed parliament. So all I know is that the bill is there, and we're here because we want to welcome the bill and implement it as it is the law of the land now. We're also noting that it is the bill, it is not the same bill or the same land, expropriation of land without compensation that was once in Parliament. This one talks to the Department of Public Works. So it must be championed by the Minister of Public Works.
So what does that mean? Does this mean that anyone who may have lost land during the apartheid era or through a colonial era that with this bill in the public interest, does that mean that they can get their land back?
It doesn't mean that. In fact, this bill has little to do with land reform. It has to do with Public Works Department and with them expropriating land, as it is saying, for public use. But it is also a process. That's why we welcome it. It is also a process that we, at least there's a process now where we can talk, where we can also engage, where we can negotiate, where we can also, we're still going to go to court. They will still refuse to give people land. So it will still take a long process but it is at least it is the step in the right direction. That's why we accept it, and we're also hoping that we can also access land. In fact, public works must expropriate land because now they are the landlord of the state land. They must expropriate land and give it to me to distribute it to the African people who need land.
So ultimately, that's what would happen?
That's what should be happening.
Why now, Minister? Why repeal this 1975 Act now, 31 years into our democracy?
In fact, I wouldn't have an answer to that, but as you know, this process takes 5 years to complete. It's a long process. But all I know, I'm happy that the apartheid law has been repealed. And those who are complaining, are they happy with apartheid laws? So I don't think they should be happy with apartheid laws unless they are part of apartheid or they were enjoying apartheid. So we're happy that it is repealed and it was an apartheid law. We're happy that at least there's a center now. There's a process of expropriating land, and public works are custodians of that.
What do you say to criticism of those who say that is this not a willing buyer, willing seller just wrapped in a new bow?
I don't know about willing buyer, willing seller, but all I know is that let's agree that willing seller was not the act of parliament. It was not the law of the republic. It was the policy. So I don't think they are telling the truth. That's not correct. It can't be accurate because we all agree that willing buyer, willing seller did not work. But we also agree that as much as we said the willing buyer, willing seller did not work, we are still doing it because we are still going to the farmers. We are still approaching them. We are still talking to them when we want to buy farms. They still come up with exorbitant prices. And if they are not willing to sell those farms, we can't buy them, even if we are willing to buy. And therefore, willing buyer, willing seller is still there. That is why, as this Department of Land Reforms and Rural Development, we must bring the bill quickly in Cabinet and in Parliament, which must be called the Redistribution Bill, so that we fast-track the land reform, so that we fast-track the return of the land, so that we fast-track the redress. I thought everybody in that Parliament is happy that we must do redress. Everybody in that Parliament knows and understands that the land was taken from us and there's a need to return the land to its rightful owners. I thought everybody understand that the item of conflict in this country has always been land. And if there are attempts to try and resolve that item of conflict, it is a step in the right direction. We're happy the President has signed.
How will you be working with the Department of Public Works on this?
I would expect them to expropriate land and give it to me and distribute it to African people, because African people are landless. African people need land. African people need shelter. They don't need this argument. African people want services from us. I'm hoping we're going to work and resolve this and give land to our people.
But this is about public use, so how would you then allocate which individuals then get that land?
No, that's why I'm saying it's not really what land reforms is looking for. Or it is not really what the land bill that was once tabled in Parliament and failed to pass it is. Because that one, they remember the bill that must allocate land, honestly, it must be clear that land reform minister must execute this bill. Then we are going to expropriate land if that time comes and give it to our people. We do allocate land as we speak, but all we are complaining is that the process takes too long. The process takes us to court, to negotiations, and sometimes the exorbitant prices of farms. And we also have the OVG office here where they go there and do valuations of the farms. But then if they don't agree, we still go to court, but it's a long process. And our people have been waiting, it's 30 years now, still trying to resolve the land matter. We're also hoping to resolve the land matter soon so that people don't do land grabs and so on. I was in one radio station this morning and people were calling and threatening that if you don't give us land, we're going to take it to ourselves, which is what we're not interested in. But even with this
bill as it stands, people will still have those threats because it's primarily for public works.
This is what I'm telling you.
Is this not you hijacking this from public works? Because this is going to be their job.
No, I'm not hijacking it. That's why I'm saying this is for public works. But they must still get land and they can give some land to me so that I distribute it to our people. It's for them. It's for public use, where perhaps they are going to build houses, where perhaps there's going to build a hospital, where perhaps a road is going to be constructed. That I understand very clearly. But I'm saying it is a step in the right direction.
You're speaking about also having to negotiate with farmers, some of the challenges that you face as well, overpricing. One can think of the Malamala Game Reserve example, where one individual gained over R1 billion for that game reserve, and then was still left to manage it as well. And the people of that community never really saw the fruits of that. You're saying this is the process that will ultimately lead to such cases where there is a negotiation. How are you going to ensure that they aren't overcharging you as the state, that you don't pay over R1 billion?
That's why we have OVG, Office of the Valuer General, so that we make it a point that they don't overcharge us. And also, I'm glad you are raising the issue of Malamala. It is my first assignment as the year starts now, to go to Malamala. And I know the matter is in court now, but I'm about to go to Malamala so that we sit and talk about what happened. A land bought with more than 1 billion, as you are saying it. But the communities, the claimants, are still suffering even to date. So we are engaging those communities, and we're hoping to resolve. It is not only Malamala. You can go, there's a lot of them. There are problems everywhere, whether it's Kruger National Park, which is 2 million hectares and bigger than Israel, by the way. There's a lot of land, and CPAs fighting against each other, fighting against traditional leaders, and the department giving people money and giving, in fact, the 80 billion that was paid by the department for restitutions. The beneficiaries are white people, and the real claimants are given land with nothing. As a result, they fail, and we call them failures and people who can't farm. And that is what we must correct. So we're going to Malamala, correct it, and all other issues around Mpumalanga, Free State, and all these provinces. There are similar cases.
Minister, briefly, just before you go, you are from the PAC. We all know the stance of the PAC when it comes to land expropriation without compensation. Are you compromising on your political party's values?
I would never compromise on my political party's values, because I am in Parliament because my political party gave me that mandate to be in Parliament. And the very same political party took an NEC resolution that I must participate in government, because PAC, the party of Sobukwe, was formed to govern. The reason we were formed to govern and take the land back to its rightful owners. So we can't compromise. In fact, as I'm here, I've started from an NEC meeting of the PAC that is going to take place, that is taking place already until Sunday in Gauteng. Those are the people who gave me mandate. Branches of this organization are happy that PAC is participating and delivering services to the African people. We'll never compromise. We're happy to be part of government.
Are you happy that it's without compensation, though?
Definitely we should. Anyway, I mean,
it's with compensation.
No, I'm not happy. I'm not happy it is with compensation, because even with compensation, as you are saying, people are reluctant. They are not giving us these farms, and the process is dragging too long. And now it's 30 years. That's why I'm saying we will bring a bill soon, with that redistribution bill, so that we fast-track the distribution of land equitable to our people.
Minister, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming into studio.